Big Ben is back. He's gotten a haircut, Chris. He's gotten a haircut, and he's gotten a shave. He was looking like a rugged mountain man, Yukon Cornelius, not that long ago. And this is very recent. He was throwing with his guys, and then he decided after the throwing session, because he said he's not going to shave until he throws a legit NFL pass, he believes it was a legit NFL pass that was thrown to the likes of Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner. So Big Ben is now clean-shaven with short hair. The elbow is healed, he believes, and he's ready to go for 2020. That's one of the stories that's been overlooked throughout the pandemic and the run-up to the draft and free agency. And there's just this vague sense that Ben Roethlisberger's in the early days of breaking down as he gets closer to 40. Jay Glazer stepped into a hornet's nest a few weeks ago suggesting that the Ben Roethlisberger offseason workout plan is a far cry from Tom Brady's. I mean, look, it's the truth. Has anyone ever accused Ben Roethlisberger of eating avocado ice cream? So I think it makes sense to see what kind of shape he's in. Is the elbow healed? And was last year, Chris, just the first step in what could be a gradual breakdown of the body of a guy who really hasn't taken the kind of care of his body that a Tom Brady or other high-end quarterbacks have?
Yeah, I think that's, a legitimate question by us, Jay Glazer, anybody. I mean, hey, we respect Big Ben. I know you think he's underrated. I do too. I mean, he's a hell of a football player. We know that. He's a huge difference maker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, Mike, I mean, you're saying it. This is not a guy that I think is going to go down in the record books for, off-season workout regimens or, off-season workout diet plans. You can see that. I mean, it doesn't take a fool or a dummy to look at Ben Roethlisberger and go, well, his body doesn't look exactly like Tom Brady's or Drew Brees. No. I think they have a different approach to their offseason. I found out from Big Ben a little last year. It sounds like in the offseason, he kind of lets his body rest. He's just a dad. He, stays in somewhat shape, but it's not going to dictate his day on a daily basis. He's not going to throw a ton of footballs. But either way, if the elbow's healed, I know Big Ben can throw the football. I know that. But I think the body is a big question. I do. And again, unlike Brady and Brees too, where we got to give Big Ben a lot of credit, he took a beating for about a 7 or 8 year period of his career. And I think we all have kind of forgotten that here sitting in 2020 right now. But Mike, I know you lived there close to Pittsburgh, and those late, 2009, 2010, 11, 12, I mean, he took a beating as a quarterback and, played through injuries. And I think all of that is kind of catching up to him a little bit right now. But I would think he's got a year or two of good play left in him at least.
I don't think people give him enough credit for the beating he took because he's had that reputation of a guy who embellishes his injuries and exaggerates his injuries, right? There's always been that little hint, that little extra where, my arm, it's broken, but maybe it is broken. And that's the thing. Even if there's any little extra that he adds to it for sympathy or for pride or honor or look at what I'm trying to gut out, or maybe you'll appreciate me more if I can't play for the key drive of a key regular season game, whatever the case may be, it doesn't change the fact that he has had the crap beat out of him over the past 15 years. And he is a throwback in a lot of ways. I mean, you've got these quarterbacks who are like Dolph Lundgren in Rocky IV without the steroids, but, basically created in a laboratory and everything is measured out to the droplet of hydration and nutrition and exercise. And Roethlisberger's just showing up and saying, oh, here I am. It's football season. Give me the ball. Let's go play. And there's a charm to that. I think we should embrace that. We should – I don't know why we – I look, and I know he's had off-field issues that make him less sympathetic, but I don't know why we don't appreciate more the fact that this guy is different from all of the other older quarterbacks out there in that he really is like a quarterback out of the 70s or the 80s who's gonna say in the offseason, I'll be ready for football when football comes, and really doesn't spend all the time getting ready. And then when he's ready to go, he's ready to go, and he does what he has to do to get ready for week one.
Well, I think you hit on a lot of things that kind of cloud his image a little bit. One, You're right. He had an old school style of play of football, and yeah, he looks like a guy that was like, oh, I'm going to go out here and throw some footballs, and I'm going to drink a beer, and then I'm going to go eat one of those Roethlisberger sandwiches when it's over, and just enjoy the night. He does look like one of those guys. And to Mike, to what you're saying, he's a little bit of a diva. There's no doubt. You're right. He likes to let everybody know when something's banged up, and he's not afraid to, show the cameras, hey, I got an issue here. And I think he lets it known in the locker room and things like that. But you got to respect the play. There's no doubt, like you said. This guy that's been to 3 Super Bowls, he won 2 of them. I know he won one of them. It wasn't like glorious stats or anything like that. But either way, he had years of carrying a Pittsburgh Steelers football team that was really poor on the offensive line, had no running game, and he played with a throwback style of play where, it was in the pocket. It was kind of backyard football within the pocket, and he'd have people all over him. And hey, listen, I'll never forget the year they went to the Super Bowl and Rex Ryan with the Jets, who had just upset the New England Patriots, and Tom Brady said, we were okay with them, but man, Big Ben, he gave us more problems than anybody because of his ability to stay in the pocket and scramble and do things off schedule. So, yeah, we can't forget the greatness of what is Big Ben and let it be clouded by some of the off the field or other stuff that's gone on.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago, the Steelers' last Super Bowl appearance. The Patriots have had something to do with the Steelers not being back over the course of the last decade. The Steelers continue to be a very competitive team. And
Right.
Heading into 2020, and this is one of my observations. It's a narrative that is held up year after year. I've lived most of my life in and around Pittsburgh, and when the expectations are high for the Steelers, really ever since the end of their Super Bowl runs in the 70s where they won 4 championships in 6 years. In the 80s, the 90s, last decade, and now, when the expectation's high, they fail to meet it. When the expectations are low or just like really vague or like, that's when they end up having a great year. And I think this year the expectations are in that kind of like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what they're going to be. They were bad last year in large part because they didn't have Ben Roethlisberger for 14 games. But with no Le'Veon Bell, with no Antonio Brown, with the Ravens looking as good as they are, with the Browns possibly maybe finally getting it right, with the Bengals now having the promise of a Joe Burrow, where do the Steelers really fit into this, Chris? And I think that this plays right into their hands because they still have plenty of talent on both sides of the ball. The defense has sneakily and quietly gotten better and better and better. It was the weakness of that team for a long time. I remember talking to Ike Taylor about that, where, it's a far cry from the 90s where it was all defense and no offense. Now it's all offense and no defense. Well, the defense has gotten better. And now the question is, can the offense hold up its end of the bargain? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that is the question of the football team. The defense, to what you're saying is special. I mean, it is to play the way they played towards the second half of the year last year, or really the whole year, and know that hey, each week we got to go out there in defense, we got to win the football game, and we got to keep teams, somewhere around 20 or below for our offense that had no identity last year to win. So I look at the defense as being NFL elite, special. The scheme, the front seven special. They did lose Javon Hargrave. That stinks. The secondary's got better. The offense is interesting. There's questions. There's potential. There's a little bit of everything there. We got questions about, Big Ben Roethlisberger. Is Juju Smith-Schuster as good as we really thought he was without Antonio Brown? Can some of these young receivers, like James Washington and Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, truly contribute to the football team this year? Do they have a difference maker at running back? I really like the kid they drafted out of Maryland, Anthony McFarland. He's kind of like a Phillip Lindsay type out of Denver. So it's similar there. But as you know, there's a lot of good things we say there, but you got to go out and do it. So the potential is there, but it's kind of a young, unproven group. And now you got the one proven guy of the football team, or the offense, I should say, with Big Ben. And now he's got to prove it to us that his arm is healthy and he's still capable of playing at a high level. So, that's where I think it stands right now. Some questions to answer on that offensive side of the ball in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, running back, a work in progress in large part because of injury. James Conner followed a promising 2018 with an injury-riddled 2019. The receiver position, they need to really get these guys to step up. The recent draft picks, Juju Smith-Schuster, not the same without Antonio Brown there to attract extra attention. I mean, Smith-Schuster had a phenomenal year in 2018. He was the team MVP. It was one of the reasons it all came to a head Week 17 when Antonio Brown left the team because it had been disclosed within the organization that Juju Smith-Schuster was the team MVP. Antonio Brown was resentful of that and took off, and that was that. And last year, without Antonio, Juju, not nearly the same guy, and we'll see whether or not all these other guys can come in and get it done. What about the offensive line? One of your big concerns was when Mike Munchak left for the Denver Broncos, the offensive line was going to go the other way. And they won their Super Bowls last decade with historically bad offensive lines. Where does that line stand right now in your estimation?
Yeah, well, to your point with the last decade thing, that's why I think Big Ben deserves a little more credit than people give him sometimes, because you're right. The offensive lines weren't special. He had to make a lot happen himself in the passing game. The offensive line, still a really good pass-blocking offensive line. They lost Ramon Foster. They got guys there to replace him, and Wisniewski there. They signed him in free agency. He'll be able to do it. Tackle play still really good. But they're coming to the end of the shelf life for this offensive line to where they're going to have to start thinking about retooling it, rebuilding it. Everybody getting up there in age a little bit. Pouncey at center. Hey, he's coming to the end here. I mean, not to say he's done, but he's at the end of the prime of his career. So, again, I think a big part that's missed from their football team last year, especially without Munchak, is the physical running game. Le'Veon Bell not being there, James Conner not being healthy, that was certainly an issue. But also to that point, with the running game last year, or a Juju Smith-Schuster, it's really hard to be successful when your quarterback is below average and nobody scares your pass game. And I think that was a big issue too. So I still think the offensive line is good. I don't think it's great anymore. 2-3 years ago, Mike, I would have gone, oh, this Pittsburgh O-line's one of the 3-4 best offensive lines in football. Now, somewhere outside the top 10, right around the top 10, right around that area, but still good enough to win football games, certainly.
Yeah, and Marquise Pouncey has been that cornerstone in the center of the offensive line, a chain that really goes back decades for the Steelers, whether it was Jeff Hardings, Dermontti Dawson, Hall of Famer, Mike Webster, Hall of Famer. I remember Ray Mansfield was the center of the Steelers, and he was an anchor there when I first became aware of football. One last important point before we take our first break of the morning. Ben Roethlisberger has a reputation on social media for blocking everyone from his Twitter account. It's amazing how many people will pull up the Big Ben 7, and it's got an underscore right before it. And anyone out there now, go ahead and do it and see. You may be surprised by what you find. Twitter.com/_Big Ben 7. Now, he blames it all because it's an official verified account. It's his account. It's him. He says there's someone that he has that runs it. And I think this person spends all day and all night just going through the entire universe of Twitter accounts and arbitrarily blocking people, because there are some people like me who deserve it, who've been blocked, and there are others who, I don't even know who he is, and they've been blocked. It is one of the strangest phenomena of all of social media, the countless accounts that have been blocked by Big Ben 7, Chris. Sources tell me that you have not yet been blocked. My goal through this segment is to get you blocked. So, hey, lady who is responsible for Big Ben's Twitter account, please block C. Sims QB, 2 M's QB.
She won't do that. Big Ben won't do that. He knows I might say a little something here and there. I keep it real, but Big Ben knows that I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the history of the sport. He's a legend. He is. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my mind.
I think so really too.
Is. I know.
I think so too.
Yeah, but you're just more of a jerk than me, so I understand them blocking you over me. I get that.
You're a suck up. You're more of a suck up
yes,
than me. That's the truth there.
Teacher's pet.
All
Here's
right.
an apple, Big Ben. I like you so much.
He doesn't eat apples. No. Here's an apple pie,
like
Big Ben.
Here's
an apple pie, Big Ben,
yeah,
with a gallon of ice cream and a keg of beer. Unblock me. All right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.